It is afternoon talk. It is 9 minutes after 2 on SAfm, South Africa's news and information leader. Ntateng Lerata in for Karabo Kgoleng, for business school leaders from across the world and stakeholders from government, foundations, civil society and the private sector are converging in Cape Town on the 8th and 9th of June for the Global Business School Network's 4th Annual Conference. The conference highlights include discussions on the response of business schools to the global crisis and on the role of management education in fostering responsible leadership. Other discussions include entrepreneurship, agribusiness, and health management. Those are the key critical areas for developing countries. And my guest today to talk about that is Mr. Guy Pfeffermann. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Yourself?
I've had better weather in Cape Town, I will say that.
Really? No, you sound like you're having a very good time in Cape Town.
I'm having an excellent time. I'm here with two delightful ladies who are part of our team.
No, good to hear that. Now, looking into South Africa, do you think that the curriculum that is being offered in South Africa helps to equip leaders that can play a role in big business at a global level?
Yes, it depends where. I mean, as you know, the South African government went a few years ago through an extraordinary process by which they removed the accreditation of all business schools, and then they re-accredited them one by one. And the ones that are accredited today, most of them are very much world-class and very, very good.
Mm-hmm. And now I know that the conference, you had a conference last year in Nairobi.
Yes, we did.
And how was the response from that conference? How was that received?
Fantastic. We had 170 people come. They all paid for themselves. They all came because they wanted to be there. And we had tremendous workshops and all about how poor management is the elephant in the living room. Everybody is kind of, who's in development, is looking at a toe here and a tail there and an ear there. And nobody is really kind of taking in the whole picture, which is that if any organization, including your radio station, is well managed, it works better.
No, certainly.
And that's true for health, it's true for non-government organizations, it's true for businesses, of course. So we had this meeting, and the whole theme was how good, local, relevant business education could really enhance results.
Well, you are listening to Afternoon Talk on SAfm, South Africa's news and information leader. You are welcome to join in our discussion. Call us on 0891 104 207 if you are interested in perhaps giving a comment or asking a question. And now, how is this global or local practice challenges playing out in developing countries or developing regions like Africa compared to more developed economies?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. I get this question a lot. They say, oh, you just want to kind of impose the Harvard Business School model on those African countries and so on. In fact, what we find, and this is really fascinating, is that the professors who come from the schools in Europe and America, they, in fact, learn more in Africa than do their African colleagues. It's just amazing. And all the students want to go and study what's going on in Africa. After all, Africa is the place where you still have a huge growth potential, and all the programs are driven by local needs. So it's not a case of these guys coming here and saying this is what you should do. It's a case of a local school like in Senegal, or I just spent a week in Brazzaville, and they want a business school because they said, look, we have needs and they're not being met.
Definitely. And now, what would you then recommend for, let's say, maybe the development of agribusiness in South Africa based on what you just said?
Well, agribusiness, I think, is like health and like education, like anything else. I think that if I had my ruthers, I would do a little survey and ask people what were their perceived needs for training. And we did this with 800 health managers, and there was an overwhelming response saying we went to medical school, we really have never learned how to deal with, HR and budgets and all the things you have to deal with when you run an organization. And I suspect it's pretty much the same in agribusiness.
And do you think that our education system in South Africa allows for such training?
Now, I'm not South African. I have studied a little bit, and this is a trick question because I think there are many opinions about that.
Mm-hmm.
The feeling I have not only in South Africa but in many countries and many other African countries is that the governments try to have curricula which kind of are almost carbon copies of what you find in Europe, in the UK, in France, and so on and so forth, whether or not they're the best for the needs of most of the people in their countries. And my hunch would be that you have some of that in this country as well.
Definitely. 0891 104 207. If you want to participate in this conversation, I'm talking to Mr. Guy Pfeffermann, and we're talking about the business conference that is going to be held in Cape Town. He is the CEO of Global Business School Network. If you want to participate in the conversation, do call us. Now, when we're talking about the education, now a lot of alumni, well, from your observation, do you think that people that go to business schools become managers or entrepreneurs? Well, of course, this would then depend on the type of training they receive, I think.
Mm-hmm. Well, people in most places have to pay for studying at business schools, or somebody has to pay for them. And that's a pretty good incentive for people to go there who have prospects of finding a job at the end. In Nairobi and in Senegal and in other sub-Saharan African countries, I haven't really run into people who complain that alumni couldn't find jobs. Now, entrepreneurship is a different thing. And what you are talking about is two different things. One is people who already run a small firm and helping them to grow that firm, and that usually works very well. And the most difficult part is to be teaching people, especially young people, who may not have much of an education background and try to turn them into entrepreneurs.
Definitely,
that is the really hard bit.
Yeah, and talking about that, what sort of then intervention would you recommend to be able to get that kind of training to hone their business acumen, to be able to play in the global market?
CEDA in Johannesburg is doing a fabulous job, and there is a similar institution here called CEBA, I think, in Cape Town, taking poor kids who really don't have any money and training them, and it's a very tough training. I just learned this morning that at the first kind of scrutiny after a few months, they told the people who hadn't been doing their homework that they were out. So it's very tough, but the people who go through this really then have the skills to start a little business or to be employed, whereas if you don't have, for instance, using a spreadsheet, okay? If you end up your training without knowing how to use a spreadsheet, then there isn't much of a chance that you'll either get a good job or know how to start one, an enterprise.
And then there needs to be proper training, I suppose, for that.
Yeah.
Definitely. And now, compared to the conference you had in Nairobi, Kenya, how different is it going to be from this one that we're going to have this year?
I think that in Nairobi, the thing we had was a large number of people, local people from Nairobi who came. We had NGOs, we had a number of businesses, we had a number of participants. This year, I think it's going to be more international. We're going to have people from all over the world, and especially from all over Africa. But I think there will be fewer local people from Cape Town and from South Africa than we had last year in Nairobi.
Okay. Now, business school education in developing regions, may be considered a privilege that only a few can afford or even aspire to have. Now, given the scarcity of even the most basic education in some instances, how can the potential future leaders access this education? I suppose
this is where your first question comes in about the whole educational system. You see, if you live in Nigeria or in Kenya, the government has no money. So if you grow up in a poor family, your only alternative is either to stay poor or to really kind of start something, no matter how small, but to take the risk and do it yourself.
Definitely.
and become an entrepreneur. In Europe, where there is very little entrepreneurship, in my country, in France, for example, something like 15 or 20% of GDP is in transfer payments to people who are either unemployed or don't have a good job. So the incentive for these people to start a business is really very, very low. And I think South Africa falls somewhere in between in the spectrum.
Yeah, but I think now I'm thinking with the current state of the economy, a lot of people are being retrenched, and a lot of people will be looking to start businesses, and will definitely then need the type of education to be able to assist them in creating sustainable businesses.
Yes, and I think that then what the government can do is to award scholarships, and I hope on the basis of ability or merit, and it can award a lot of scholarships. And that would have a lot more impact, I think, than to kind of say, okay, we'll pay you to stay home, so to speak.
Well, it is afternoon talk on SAfm, South Africa's news and information leader. It's at 22 minutes after 2. I'm Ntateng Lerata in for Karabo Okholeng. I am talking to Guy Pfeffermann about the conference that will be held in Cape Town. It's a business conference by the Global Business School Network. He is the CEO of that Global Business School Network. Now, Guy, why have you chosen Cape Town as the host this year? Well, South Africa and Cape Town in particular.
Well, let me backtrack a little bit. What I think hasn't come out in our conversation is how excited people are really about this. Here you have hundreds of the top business professors in the world, including in South Africa, who are doing work to have collaborative projects with their colleagues in sub-Saharan Africa in order to get them out of isolation, basically, and plug them into a network where they can see the best practices. And it's absolutely fantastic. Nobody else is doing this. No government agency, no aid agency, nobody is doing this, because they all say, well, business schools, as you said, is for the rich kids. But in fact, the philosophy is that if you don't teach people how to fish, you just hand them fish, and that doesn't do much good. Whereas what we do is try to get these schools to crank out problem solvers, people who think on their feet, and people who can really use resources better.
No, certainly. And we need to eradicate that mentality of just being given things. We need to do things for ourselves. And I think this actually does help in doing that. And now, who is expected to attend the conference?
Well, the bulk of the participants are going to be university professors from the north and from here, from all sorts of countries. I mean, from Europe, from the United States, from Nigeria, from Kenya, from all sorts of places, and also people here from the South African schools that are working with us. Then there will be a number of people who are in the health sector. We're going to run a health workshop on health management, and that is supported by the Gates Foundation, who've asked us to look into this. And this is, we interviewed these 800 people in Nigeria and in Kenya and Senegal to find out what are the needs. Then there will be people dealing with agribusiness. And also people dealing with ethical business education. And there's a professor from the University of Pretoria in particular who is going to run a workshop on the ethical dimension of business.
Okay.
And there are many other people, but basically it's a mix of professors, of some business people, of foundations, and non-government organizations.
0891-104-207. You are listening to SAfm, South Africa's news and information leader. If you do want to participate in our conversation. Now, Guy, is the members of the public allowed to come to this conference?
Yes, in fact, I welcome that. There's a fee because we're feeding people and so on, but they're very welcome to log in on our website if they're interested. And would you like the website? Hello?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yes, it's www.
www.
Yes, GBSN, which stands for Global Business School Network.
GBSN.
Online, one word.
Yes.
.org, and there are all the information is there about the meeting.
Okay. Is there a fee?
Yes, there is.
All right. How much does it cost?
$300, and that includes 2 days worth of food and wine.
Okay, $300. Then you'd have to definitely convert that into our rands, I suppose. Then, if you are South Africans.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Guy. It was a pleasure talking to you.
You're very, very welcome. It was a pleasure. I gather nobody called in. Probably it put them all to sleep.
No, certainly not. They were just listening attentively, getting all the information. Thank you very much, Guy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.